Yes, comfort and luxury at its best. That is Protea Hotel by Marriott and Tebe. If you have an indoor or outdoor event that you are looking for a venue for, Protea Hotel is the place to go. They also have a very good spa. Yes, it's called Tides Spa, and also a fitness center where you get to work out your muscles. Definitely, you also need to make your reservation. You could be wanting to take your person out for a dinner. You can call these numbers for reservation. That is plus 256 414-323-132. It is right there on your screens. Please do make your reservations. Now, Protea brings you issues at hand. And today we have a very, very interesting topic that we are tackling on issues at hand today. My name is Daphne Karungi Kangove, and I know you must be wondering, who is that beautiful young woman right there? This is Miss Samantha May Agwero, an advocate at Women Pro Bono Initiative. Now someone's like, Women Pro Bono, what? Now you see, when it comes to law, they use ambiguous words, and sometimes you fail to understand even the simplest of words. I am going to ask Miss Samantha to break that down for us after she greets us.
Okay, good morning, our viewers. My name is Agwero Samantha, an advocate with Women's Pro Bono Initiative. Women's Pro Bono Initiative
Yes.
is an indigenous non-government organization whose vision is a violence-free Uganda for all women and girls.
Okay.
So what motivates us and what we seek to do
Yes.
is to make sure that there is no violence against girls. How do we address these issues? One is through legal representation. We represent women and girls
Okay.
who are not able to afford legal representation. Two, through also awareness, we are able to give awareness to women and girls about their human rights, because it also starts from a person knowing their value,
Yes.
knowing their rights. So we're able to make women and girls aware of their rights. Another thing we do is knowledge sharing. We shall research and let people know about the different things that are going on in the world, the different human rights. And in a way, we are able to promote this, to try and get our vision, which is a Uganda free of violence against women and girls. Women's pro bono, the pro bono actually means
The pro bono word.
Yeah, the pro bono word means free services. So our organization seeks to help those women when we really see that this woman lacks legal representation. We are able to do everything for you for free. We shall
So if
represent
they
you for
don't
free.
have money to pay for legal services, you do it for free.
Yes.
That is what pro bono means.
Yes, we do
Okay.
it for you for free, and our organization even has a toll-free number.
Okay.
Yes.
I think you shall share that later as we go on. What are we talking about today? You could be asking yourself. Our discussion today is on gender-based violence against women and children. Gender-based violence against women and children. This is something that we have been talking about, something that we talk about in papers everywhere, even in our homes, because it is all over the place, Miss Samantha. And I understand that you have 16 days activism with the theme of Unite Girls, to end violence against women and girls. So I am asking myself, the viewers must be wondering, why these 16 days and why this theme?
Okay. These 16 days, actually, they started in 1991 by the Global Leadership Institute. It's a civil society-led campaign that seeks to promote the elimination of violence against women and girls, of any gender-based violence against women and girls. Now, it started in 1991 by the Global Leadership Institute. It starts on 25th November and ends on 10th December. So those are the 16
The
days.
16 days that we're talking
Yes.
about.
So that the 25th, why there's 16 days, they try to show the link between the fact that the violence against women. By doing that, it's actually you're abusing the rights of women. Because on 25th November is the International Day Against Violence Against Women.
Oh, on 25th November.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the day the 16 days start. And then 10th December is the International Human Rights Day.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's a calculation between violence and rights. So that means we cannot talk about violation unless we understand what is being violated.
Yes.
So could we start off with the rights that women have, that girls have? Because one thing that I've come to understand, Miss Samantha, is sometimes people could be going through something that is actually illegal, but they have no idea because they don't know the right path. So they could be having their rights being violated, but they do not know that it's actually their right. Could you take our viewers through the women's rights right now?
Yeah, the women's rights, we actually applaud our country, Uganda, because some of the women's rights, being a vulnerable group in society, women, our rights are even enlisted in the Constitution of Uganda. But there are also rights that have come out. There are some of these things that, because of culture systems, women are abused, but they don't know, like you have said. That is like female genital mutilation. That's an abuse of human rights. First of all, it's wrong.
Yes, and very humiliating.
And it's very humiliating, and
Yes.
it affects girls. Then there is the sexual harassment that happens in offices, that happens in organizations, wherever we are, and people keep quiet about that. Then all this physical and mental violence because of culture. You know, you've had these things where people say, when you beat a woman, she feels more loved. There are things that happen like that. And so what this 16 days of activism seek to do is to make people aware that some of these things are done by culture, but they're actually very wrong, and people should take the initiative to stop it. All stakeholders, the media, individuals, men, should all take the initiative to make people aware that this is wrong and this should stop. So that is really
Wow.
Yes.
So that means that women and girls ought to know that actually it's their right to live in an abusive free environment. And then I also understand of how many people are abusing girls' rights to education, and girls do not know it's actually their rights to be educated, especially in villages or places that don't have much of enlightenment. And then I heard someone ask, why did you come up with this initiative? Why are you looking particularly at the women and the girl child? Recently, we had the Archbishop saying that it is important to also look at the boy child, because if they don't do that, we're going to lose the whole generation and them being the heads. Why this initiative?
This initiative is mainly based on the fact that women are very vulnerable. And that's why there are statistics to show that every 1 in 3 women is actually violated. So imagine looking around and you count 3 women, and in those 3, one has
been
violated.
abused,
And also the silence that is going on. Women will not talk. And that's why there are these culture things of okuguma. We don't mean that the boys are not important. The boys are important, but in the society, they have still been given a pedo more than the girl. And so this initiative, since it started by the Global Leadership Institute, it went on to be taken by the UN, the United Nations. So the United Nations is the one that got the theme, and usually organizations, we are in partnership with the UN because they represent human rights. So the theme for this year is Unite Activism to End Violence against women and girls. So what they're trying to say is by uniting, we can all make a change. Yes. So that is what the theme is all about. All stakeholders should unite. Women, survivors can tell their story.
Yes.
And so we should be able to listen to the survivors, but also we should be open to letting them know it's something called the survivor-based approach, where in case they don't feel like showing their face, please do not show it. Respect them.
Yes.
And in case they're tired of their story going around, respect
You could stop
that.
it as
Yes.
well. So, when you talk about speaking out and people coming out to give their stories, especially the survivors, when you were explaining why women were chosen, why this
Yes.
initiative to protect the women and all, you mentioned a point whereby that women will not speak out. So you come out to speak for those that wouldn't speak out.
Yes.
It brings me to this place where statistics have it that women speak a lot.
Yes.
Actually, one say that if a woman fails to speak the number of words she's supposed to speak during the day, she shall sleep talk.
Yes.
But why is it that when it comes to being abused and manipulated, they cannot speak? What do you attribute this silence to?
One, I think it's the patriarchal norms. There are these norms that the man, and patriarchy has been an African thing, an African culture.
Very true.
And the fact that if the man has told you this, do not talk, where are you going to go? He'll even, especially when he has power over you, he'll tell you, okay, you talk, do not come back to this house. You don't have a home
If you tell
to go
anybody,
to,
yeah.
or you'll not see these children. And so those are some of the conditions, that conditional thing that makes women keep quiet. And then another thing, also poverty. Sometimes, especially when a woman is poor, that's why we are we thrive a lot on making sure that women are empowered. A woman who doesn't have, like, it's not working for
The one who
herself,
is dependent on the husband or the man.
It's really very hard. How is she going to start saying, this man hurts me? How?
Because she doesn't know how to start.
Yes, you don't know when you're next, when you'll see food on your table.
Yeah.
So you decide to keep quiet. So those are the things. Really, it's culture, the patriarchal norms, poverty, all those things. That's why we seek to see an empowered woman. Because they're able to fight for themselves, and they're able to talk, knowing that I can provide for myself and you're not going to bring me down.
Wow. And that
Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
Yes, a very, very important point we were discussing. We are still watching issues at hand, and we are talking about gender-based violence against women and the girl child. There's been an initiative that is being taken to ensure that this is curbed here in Uganda, because it's on the rise, and it's very, very disheartening to know what is happening. Yesterday we had a report on how a husband actually killed the wife over family planning. The man is 52 years old. So he finds out that the wife had gotten an implant to stop her from having the kids. And this guy gets a blunt object and hits her on the head, and she dies. When we talk about this campaign, I wonder, when did it start?
This campaign started, like I had said earlier, in 1991 by the Global Leadership Institute. And it came about as there were so many issues of violence against women. There's even in these 16 days, there's our day, I think it's December 6th of the Montreal massacre. It's usually called the feminist massacre. Now, what happened in that massacre? A man walks in. I think there was studying. It was in Canada. There were girls, and then he tells the men to get out, and then he shoots every woman. Was 9 died on spot, and then others were injured. So these 16 days also talk about that. So all these issues are what led to the 16 days for us to be able to lead the activism. So organizations come together, organizations that help women access justice, that fight for women's rights, come together to be able to cause awareness of this.
Well, that Montreal massacre really brings a lot of questions to mind. Did this man really speak out why he had to do that?
He killed himself after he had shot
wow.
the women.
Okay.
So usually some people say maybe it wasn't a feminist thing issue. Maybe
But
it just
why
had
did he let
mental
the guys
issues,
go
But he
out?
let the men go out, and then he said all the feminists, all the women stay in, because it was an engineering class. So it goes to show you that there are people who will not want to see women thrive at all, and they'll do anything to make them. And in that case, like the incident of the spouse who just killed the wife
Yes.
because of an implant, why aren't we using conversations? Conversations are important. This is the person you chose to live with. Why can't you
Yes.
talk to them? And because of an implant, you choose to kill them? Is that right? And those are the women we come to talk about, the 1 in 3 women who are being violated.
About it every other day.
Yeah.
And then looking at this campaign and knowing that it has good intentions,
Yes.
one comes to wonder, has it seen achievements? Because when we see it be reported every other day, when a woman is being killed, when someone is denied a job because they cannot lay with a boss, a person asks themselves, are you really making impact? Ever since you started this campaign, have you seen some success?
Yes. Now, basing on Uganda, Uganda ratified the convention, on the UN Convention on the Elimination of Violence Against Women and women's rights. They ratified it. Now, that is an international law that helps us be in line, and to also make sure that these laws, we put them in place in our constitution.
Yes.
We thank the government because they've been able to put some of those laws that show women's rights in the constitution. There are other laws that the government really showed that a step had been made last year in 2021. The Succession Act.
Yes, the Succession Amendment Act, yes.
Where initially it was only boys who could actually inherit.
That
and
is
that is
true.
wrong. Now imagine a person who wants to give his daughter, but she can't because the
law is against it.
So we applaud the government for taking that up. The Succession Amendment came into
That
place.
is really good.
And then also the fact there's also the employment, something to do with the policies where they ask the government, where they ask all workplaces to put in place sexual harassment policies. And that's very important. There are workplaces that didn't have sexual harassment policies. But through this activism, we're able to see where the government is really going forward.
Yes, to ensure
by
that it is
amending those
implemented.
laws and making them okay for all of us, and to ensure gender equality.
Wow,
Yes.
that is really good. And like you're saying, actually, it's very, very true when we look at the act and how now it's very okay. And it cannot be contested because if the law is supporting it, you cannot come and say that a girl is not supposed to inherit property.
Exactly.
That is really good. And actually, I remember when the activists came out to say that a woman should be given 5 months of maternity leave, and that is being discussed.
Still being there, but we shall get there with
but
time.
at least you are doing something, and that
Yes.
is good. So that means you have registered some success. Now the UN has come up with a campaign to end gender-based violence against women and girls come 2030. Do you think this is achievable?
Very achievable. If we all come together as partners, if actually we're even pushing for even the men to partner and to be a part of this. The men, the media, the government, all stakeholders really, the women should be able to, those who have survived should be able to come tell their stories, and to also encourage those who may be there to come out.
And those who are scared.
Those who are scared. And also the men should come. You know, the fact that some of them throw and be like, this is a feminist thing, you people are just all about, you want to kill our culture. But if the men came and ensured that we all get gender equality, that women are being protected, 2030 we can achieve that.
What do you say about those men that are being battered by their words?
Because they're actually there, but because of ego they don't speak up. I would
Yes.
just encourage them. It's more of also awareness. Speak about it. report it, because as an organization that thrives, that pushes for women's rights,
Yes.
we don't abuse anyone's rights. So even if a man is being abused, we are not happy about it, because those are their human rights. And
Do you have like a sister company that can help men in this as well,
I think
where they can run to?
where there are human rights organizations.
Okay.
But yeah, they can report, they can go to the security operatives. You can report even to your, okay, some for free are reporting to the LC ones, because I think the village and then the
Everyone
Igbo,
gets to know
but
that you're
there are
beaten,
organizations that can speak about it, and then you can get a way forward. But do not keep quiet, do not be silent about gender-based violence.
When we look at your energy, the effort that the initiative has, and all these organizations that have come about, we see that there is still harassment in workplaces,
Yes.
in spaces, in homes, and also marginalization is still there.
Yes.
On a very, very good rate right there. So one wonders, okay, there is a lot that has been done, there's been achievements, but why is it still ongoing? Could there be underlying factors that you think you can highlight that are actually hindering this success?
The factors that are hindering this success, I actually base them on two things. One is culture, and culture is still really making this very hard. And then also the other thing is poverty. One, culture, you see how female genital mutilation is an abuse of women's rights.
Yes.
They'll stop it in Captura, in the places where it's done,
Yes.
but you'll find girls, or
Even in Sebei region.
in the Sebei region, girls still crossing over to Kenya to do it
Oh, wow.
because of culture, and then they will come back. So that shows you that it's still, they still work to be done, especially with cultural leaders. We
Yes.
still have to really go on ground and talk to them.
A
about
lot of
the
sensitization
of
required.
people, yes. And then poverty, because one is when a person is really poor, when they have nothing, you can do anything.
To them.
Yes. So you're able to, maybe there are those who end up being sexually exploited. I'll tell you, I'm giving you 1,000, you have nothing. Let me sleep with you. And then they'll beat
Or I'm
you.
giving you a job.
Yes, there's sexual trafficking happening right now.
Yes.
Where men get young girls. You'll even find dads paying people
Oh dear.
to sleep with their girls because
So
of
they become
poverty.
pimps.
Yes, and to sleep with anyone, so that this man is paid money.
That's so
So that is,
sad.
or at the end of it all, the end root is poverty and culture, really. So those are the things that are really hindering this campaign from really going forward, and those are the things that we really have to work on as organizations and the government of Uganda.
Well, when you talk about poverty, what comes to mind is also disasters or circumstances that come about without us knowing that about you. For example, COVID-19 was highlighted as one of the causes of the increased rate of violence in homes. I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
Yes. Now, the UN Women did a study in 2021, and they said over 45% of women were being violated or
dear.
knew someone
Being
who was
violated.
being violated. And it increased in the COVID
Period.
period. And then 6 out of 10 women stated that sexual harassment has increased, even in public. Now, you can imagine.
Oh wow.
All this, and people don't understand that even when you walk on the streets, you see how the men smack women.
Yeah. And
Yes.
then they're pulling you and they're
pulling
saying
you.
all
That
these
is all
words to
sexual
you.
harassment. But you can imagine in that COVID period, it increased. Children left school; they couldn't access menstrual hygiene and then all those sanitary pads. So COVID-19 really, and then people couldn't talk. You know, we were in our homes, so maybe the person you want to talk to is far away. You can't.
Yeah, you have no way to get
So
to
even
them.
the silence increased and the violence increased because you were stuck there with a spouse who is beating you every day, or you were stuck with a roommate. Let's say you're sharing a housemate and the housemate is beating you every day. So COVID-19 really did a lot, and now we are trying to get out of those shackles. Yes.
That is very, very true. Actually, we saw so many wives being battered because the husband could not bring food at home, and when you ask him, he turns on you. And I think even people not being used to staying with each other before, you know, they wake up very early and they go away, and then later they come back, or maybe when they're very tired, so they don't have all this time. Oh yeah, wow, that study was really, really disheartening. And now when it comes to physical and verbal abuse, I know there is always an impact.
Yes.
When it comes to the words that are spoken unto us. Actually, one man came out to say that you are the total sum of the words that have been spoken to you, about you. You know, you're growing up and they're telling you you're this, you're that, you're that, and somehow it forms who you are because you carry this image of what the other person thinks of you, the other people have to say about you. And then the physical abuse, I know it always has an effect on a person, and as you being part of the people that have been listening to these women, definitely you know the effects, and it is important that our viewers understand the adverse effects of this physical and verbal abuse. If you could take us through that.
Okay. Now, physical and verbal abuse really affects a person, and it enters, it's actually sometimes leads to, most times in most cases leads to mental abuse. So you're being abused, you're being beaten, and then so you start getting ideas in your head, and then you're not okay, and challenges. Some of these abuses have led to women committing suicide. Okay, some of them have led to women leaving their children or killing their children. You find out, you've seen those stories where a woman decided to ban herself and the children, and then when they tell you, she says, the man left me, he wasn't providing, he was beating me. So all these things at the end lead to suicide, lead to death, lead to all these things, and no love in a home. You know what it can do. Later on, you're building a generation of children that by seeing this,
they are observing what is going on.
They're observing what's going on. They'll think this is the right thing to do. And that's also another thing that we have to tackle, because when children grow up seeing gender-based violence, they think that is the right thing, and that's why you find it. So you're building a generation that is going to do the same thing and taking us back to zero. So those are the things that it really causes.
Yeah, and when you say that, how children learn by observation, I was reminded of a story of when we were called in school during a teacher and parents meeting. There was this boy that was called out for beating his fellows, and every time he was beating them, he would say, "I'll beat you like my father beats my mother." And really it was sad, even being that this is ongoing, even in the presence of the children, and then you do not know what you are giving unto them, knowing that they learn more by observation rather than the words that you tell them. So we need some recommendations when it comes to this. I need you to speak to that woman out there, or to speak to that man out there when it comes to these effects and what it can have, and gender. What do you advise people to do when it comes to such instances, one to avoid, and if it is to happen, what they can do?
Okay. Now, when you said that story, it also reminded me of the fact that now when a boy is saying that his mother, he'll beat someone like his mom,
like the father beats the mother.
And now he'll grow up, and because the mother stayed, usually the women stay, they call it okugoma. So by staying, he'll even beat his wife and expect her to stay. My mom stayed. Why? Where are you going? I show you. My dad loved her. That's why she stayed there. So anyway, the main advocacy objectives during this activism that we are having this year is we invite everyone to be an activist. Everyone. This includes the men. This includes the government, oil leaders. Everyone in your various capacities to be an activist. yes, of elimination of this gender-based violence against women and girls. Also, we are pushing for all organizations that fight for women's rights to come together. Let's mobilize strategies to stop this gender-based violence against women. Let's come up with different strategies. We can have peaceful walks around the city, to make sure that this pain is cured. Yes. And then also we amplify the voices of feminist women's movements. We are an organization, so the fact that we are able to have these talks, it shows that the media is a part of this.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We're fully behind
we are
you.
partnering with the media, so we are able to amplify the voices of feminists and to be able to tell the world this gender-based violence against women and girls is wrong, and let's come together to be able to fight it. We also advocate for strengthening of protection mechanisms. I think those are the strategies you were talking about, like what should the
your recommendations. Because sometimes, for example, when it comes to a home setting, where there is a physical and verbal abuse, and many a time, for example, we saw that case that happened in Chegegwa that we talked about earlier, of the 42-year-old that killed the wife simply because of family planning. I saw a problem of knowledge gap. Knowledge gap. Him not understanding that actually family planning is supposed to be a part of every family for the betterment of the family. For him to understand that actually the woman was doing him a favor.
Yes.
Because the lesser the kids you have, the lesser the stress of even raising them. But when it comes to this lack of knowledge, that knowledge gap. So I was looking at the many things that we can do when it comes to speaking to couples, when it comes to speaking to the girls, they know how far they can go with a person so that they do not put themselves in a vulnerable position. Because I know that many of the women that are abused or girls that are abused are first manipulated or they are lied to. So I am looking at what the initiative can do when it comes on ground, on going into the homes. I do not know how you run it apart from on media.
Yes.
Because this was a 42-year-old peasant in Chegegwa. Probably he doesn't have a TV or access to newspapers. They may not get this voice out there. But when we return, we shall be talking more on that. I want to remind our viewers that it is issues at hand, and we are talking about gender-based violence against women and girls. There has been a 16 days initiative put aside to remind us that it is wrong to treat women and girls a certain way. How are they supposed to be treated? What can we do if we know of someone that is being abused out there? Like we spoke earlier, some cannot even speak for themselves. Some need legal representation, but they do not know how to get it because they don't have the money. And that's why we have a Bono advocate here to remind you that you can actually access free services. Issues at Hand is brought to you by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. We were talking about recommendations when it comes to physical and verbal abuse, and like earlier we were talking about amicable ways that couples can talk and come to resolve their issues, like the family planning issue, instead of getting violent about it, so they can sit down and talk. And also, if people could understand actually that dialogue is better than force or violence. I don't know if you want to add on that before we move on to another thing.
One, dialogue is very important, and also why we say even the religious leaders are stakeholders in this fight, and that's why it's on them as well, as they lead people. You know, the couple counseling before you get married, to also talk to the men, talk to the women, because any can actually violate the
That
other.
is
Women,
true.
there are those women who violate men and everything. So it is important for them in that line to also talk to couples, because they're also stakeholders, and also leaders to be, in the village, in the district, let's make people more aware about gender-based violence. Let's talk about it. By talking about it, you give someone confidence that this
Yes.
is something I can talk about. Let me get out of it. And there are limits to these things. There are limits to the fact that a person is there hitting you with a stick. Next time he'll just
And
use
you're there.
And you're there. Next time he'll use a knife, kill you, cut your hands, and then what? You've stayed there for the children, you're kukumaring, but now
You're gone.
you're gone. So the children you were staying there for, who is going to take care of them?
That is true.
So it's better to know the limits and run when you really can.
Well, like you have said, Miss, when it comes to people who start out by slapping you, definitely another time there is another thing that is common. When you look at most of these cases, especially murder,
Yes.
when a spouse murders another, is when you follow through, they'll tell you that they used to have fights.
Yeah.
That the other day he threw a broom at
That's
her.
true.
Oh, the other day he kicked her. And
Yeah.
before you know it, he ends her life. And I love the fact that you said religious leaders are stakeholders in this, and yes, we have a very big part to play as the church when it comes to couple counseling. Many tend to be busy, or they don't want to come for the counseling. I love the churches that are strict, that if you miss, then there is no
Wedding.
wedding.
Yeah.
Yes. And then others have even gone a notch higher, that if you're out of the country or unable to come, you can be online, but register presence, so that we can understand. It's something that is very complicated, getting 25 years of your growing up, and then you bring them to a 37-year-old's life apart, growing up and together. Definitely there ought to be issues right there. Now I want us to get into the main factors or principles of the Unite campaign advocacy.
Okay. Now, the Unite campaign advocacy, one of the principles is to own and acknowledge women's movements. Acknowledge these women's movements that are going around. If an organization is saying, let's work to support these women, let's work to give these women, to get money for them so that they can start a life, or their business can be, pushed. Let's support those women's movements.
Has it been done? Have we seen it in reality, where someone comes and maybe they needed legal representation, but still you realize they don't have money to actually stand on their own so that they can sustain, say, their children from the relationship or anything like that?
Yes, it has been done.
No, okay,
yes,
right.
it has.
Any other?
Then another principle is to leave no one behind. We use the human rights-based approach. Let's all come together. For people who are affected, this thing could happen to anyone, and everyone has everyone has these rights. These rights are for all of us. You have so let's push and all be a part of this. Whether the men, I like referring, because some men sometimes just push this. That's another thing.
It's a women thing.
It's a women thing. They're always
Yes.
they're fighting the culture. They're fighting the patriarchy. So let's leave no one behind. Let's not even leave the victims behind, because they're the ones who are coming to tell their story and to show the world. So we shouldn't leave the victims behind and the others. Then we should also it should be survivor-centered. That's another principle of the Unite. By having the survivors tell their story, and also giving them it should be their choice for them to say, to be okay with putting their face or not putting their face. If they're tired of sharing their story, it should
don't
be
push
okay.
them.
Do not push them. And we also take this to the media to show that please, whenever you're taking a story of a survivor, ask them if it's okay. Do not just put this, is it okay to use your
Their
real
identity,
name,
yes.
their identity, their name? So ask them all those things, because at the end of it all, it's survivor-centered.
Yes.
Another principle, it should be multi-sectoral, everyone should participate. And this still comes to the media, the religious leaders, the government, all organizations, individuals, women. everyone should participate. Schools, universities, because some of these gender-based violence issues are also happening in schools.
They are. I know
There are
they
boyfriends who are beating their girlfriends.
There are teachers hitting on our girls.
Yes. So that is all gender-based violence. So those things, and it also starts from schools, like primary schools. We can go talk to these girls and the boys and make them aware of their human rights. Make them aware of their rights, so that when you know who you are, there's no one who can
no one can shake you.
And then we elevate voices of young feminists, the young feminists in the world, because this is a generation that is coming later. So let's elevate the young feminists on media, everywhere. Let's give them a voice, because when the older, let's say the mentors, our mentors of the young feminists leave, it's us who come. So let's elevate the young feminists.
Okay.
Well. So those are the principles of the Unite campaign.
Wow, I think we had and we are going to follow suit. And when it comes to the 16 days campaign, all the way from the 25th to the 10th, are there activities that have been put in place, or even before that are geared towards the ending of this violence?
For what most organizations have done, and I'll speak mostly about Women's Pro Bono Initiative, we are having talks on radio and TV, like here and Family TV, telling people about this gender-based violence against women and girls, and why it's important for us to unite and be able to curb this gender-based violence. Another thing we're doing as an organization, we are going to refugee settlements. We shall be going to Kiriandongo refugee settlement to be able to make women aware of their human rights, to be able to teach them about their sexual, reproductive, and health rights, because it's important that they know these things, they know these family planning issues, and to be able to guide them, to even to teach them how to make reusable sanitary pads. So those are the things that us as an organization we are doing in this period of the 16 days. Yes.
When you talk about you as a Women Pro Bono Initiative, I want to look at the few statistics.
Yes.
The people that come to you usually, are they people who are, say, tired of their marriages, they want a representation when it comes to divorce, or they are trying to call the man to accountability, so that maybe he is stopped from doing what he's doing? Are they asking for a restraining order? What usually do you see there?
Now, we in our organization, one, we give legal representation and we give legal advice. Yes. So we get all kinds of women, I would say. There are those who have been battered and they need legal representation, either to move away from the man or to get a restraining order. Others need maintenance. There are men who will separate with you and then they don't provide.
They don't care
for the children and for you. They don't care where you're sleeping. So those are we get women for who are going through that. And then we also get women who are going through land issues. We have been giving legal representation to women in, I think it's Oyam district, where there are land conflicts. There are women who can't afford legal representation. They are taking away their land. So we also do that. We shall give legal representation. There are widows whose land is being taken away by maybe the family. They say
relatives,
a woman
yes.
shouldn't own land. So those are the women we represent, and they come to us and we give them an ear and represent them.
So basically it's open to any women issue, whatever it is.
Yes.
If it is marriage, it is
land
violence, learned. That is really, really
Yes.
good. Do you also tackle the issue of employment and poverty?
And poverty, yes, because we thrive on a woman. We like it when a woman is empowered, and that's why we teach them some of these things now. Like we had an MOU with the Office of the Prime Minister, so that we can easily be able to go into refugee settlements and talk to the women. So we are also able to teach women now, about these these sexual, reproductive, and health rights, and then we're going to teach them how to make reusable parts that they
you're
can
skilling
make.
them.
Yes, giving them skills that they can even make later on and sell to people, because it's important for a woman to be empowered.
Definitely. Well, that is really, really beautiful that that initiative is doing, and I am glad that you have impact on ground. And usually, I know when you are making effort and then the achievements, the successes, there is definitely a challenge. Yes. Can you take us briefly through that?
One, the challenges that we go through are, I don't know whether it's a challenge, I would call it a challenge, but we have issues of culture, so that we try to fight. You know, you're here, this is how we grew up, the girls have to go through FGM, and
Typical
then you're
African.
telling them the issues that, why FGM is bad and how it can lead to a child's death. Then also, as women's rights activists, we also go through the issue of people are telling you, what are you doing? There are those even who will say bad things about the organization on media, and that is not right. Another thing is the men not having the support. You know, the fact that we need men to be a part of this thing.
Okay.
To be a part of this fight against gender-based violence against women. So, and then also sometimes the government takes long to make laws that are really good for all of us, for the rights of a woman. The Succession Amendment Act, that it was allowed, but it took a while.
I know, but at least it comes through.
Even the employment. So sometimes it takes a while, but we get there. So those are the challenges we really face.
Yeah. And I believe you also have financial challenges, given that now you have to support the women, especially those that are coming out of maybe marriages and they want to start something on their own. Wow. Now someone is out there saying that was all beautiful, I understand, but how do I get to these people?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Women's Pro Bono Initiative has a toll-free line. I'm going to read it for you, and then you can contact us. It's 0800 22 06 45. 0800 22 06 45. You can call us and let us know what you're going through, and then we can give you legal advice, or we can advise you on the way forward. Either maybe you need legal representation, or
So do your clients mainly come to you, or you go to them?
They usually first come to the office. We write down the issue. Yes, and then we can see how to tackle the issue.
Where is your office located?
We're located in Ntinda.
In Tinda?
Yes.
Where exactly in Tinda?
In Tinda, Suna Road. After Uganda AIDS Commission, you continue ahead. There is Suna Road, and then you branch off to your left. You'll move a few meters until you see Women's Pro Bono Initiative.
So that is when you go by the stretcher road of Ntinda?
Yes, on the stretcher road.
Okay, so you cannot say that you failed to get help right there. You've gotten the number, you've gotten the address. Do go and get help so that we can see how we fight this gender-based violence. And yes, much as we are talking about women and girls, it is important that even the boy child be protected. So do not be there and think the law shan't come for you if you violate the boys' rights as well. And there has been a lot of human trafficking, as she hinted on it. It's very, very important that we be vigilant and protect our children, protect our relatives when it comes to them being trafficked. We think it's only them being sent out of the country, but we've been talking about it and how it's happening even in our homes with the maids that we hire to help us. So we ought to care about people's rights. Very, very important. It was the issues at hand. My name is Daphne Karungi Kangave. Thank you so much, Miss Samantha, for having us. I wanted to just say I love you to our viewers.
Love you.
Oh yeah, and
please.
Yes, thank you so much to Family TV for this platform where we get to talk about things that enrich people's lives. I like to thank Muhumuza in transmission and Masha on the camera. Stay with Family TV. Lots and lots of programs you are to enjoy to enrich your life.